Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be back at TechDays after 3 years. We always love coming at this conference, and we really missed you. And as Luke said, you know, we sent 39 people from Microsoft. Usually we only send about 15 people, but this year we sent as many as 39 people to engage with you, meet with you, deliver content, sessions, workshops. So you'll see, of course, all the usual suspects, the people you've met before, if you've come to TechDays before, but you'll also see some new faces. But we wanted to take it actually a step further, and we wanted to give you a tour of our facility back in Copenhagen by the Microsoft Development Center, so you can see where Business Central is made. So we've prepared a small video for you. Enjoy.
It is so incredibly humbling to see so much passion growing around Business Central around the world for so many years. It is your efforts every day making someone's dreams and someone's potential realized through the magic of Business Central. And much like you, Microsoft Business Central developers are passionate, creative, and unbelievably smart individuals. So let me show you how the magic of software comes to life in these walls.
Hey, we're the Application Foundation team, and when we're not working on building modules for the system application, we're looking at your open source pull requests on GitHub.
Hi, I'm Sam, and I work on the Business Central web client.
Hi, I'm Aida, and we are Business Center Server Management team.
Hey guys, my name is Nicolas. I'm part of the compiler team. I have to go now, but see you soon.
Hi, I'm Monat. I work in App Integration team. See you soon.
Hi, my name is Blanca, and when I'm not making coffee, I'm busy working on developer tools.
Hi, I'm Susanne. I'm writing the developer docs for Business Central.
Hi, I'm Christina.
Hi, I'm Giselle.
And we are the release manager team. We are releasing regular updates to Business Central.
And now when we had a glimpse into who is building Business Central, let's take a look at how is it built. Wow, what an incredible set of tools and improvements. We can't wait to see how far you can take it. Welcome to TechDays. Developers, assemble.
All right, that was a quick tour. Thank you. Quick introduction of the team we have. The team had a lot of fun making that video, so I hope you enjoyed it. So before we dive into more technical things, and I know that's why you're here, this is BC TechDays, I wanted to share a few numbers with you, because Business Central has a tremendous online momentum at the moment. Last time we were here in 2019, there were about 450 solutions on the app source, and now we have more than 2,700 applications. Thanks to you. Thanks to your dedication to the product, thanks to your loyalty. We had 1,400 partners selling Business Central. Now we have more than 3,800 and a growth of more than 60% year over year of number of customers for the product. So tremendous momentum for Business Central. In terms of worldwide footprint, we we have Business Central available in 91 countries, and we will be soon, very soon, adding 20 more countries, covering 78% of the world gross domestic products. So on a map, it looks like this. You can see all the places where Business Central is currently available, and there's practically nowhere in the world where you cannot get Business Central. So these countries are the ones where Business Central is available today, and very soon, in a few months, it'll be available in these additional countries. We have, as I mentioned before, more than 2,700 solutions on the App Stores, but we, of course, would like to have even more. And for that, it's very important that you get productive and you have the best tooling in the world, and that we're really concerned about your productivity. So we're going to dive right into it to talk about the tooling and productivity. And for that, I want to invite Aida on stage. Welcome, Aida.
Thank you, Vincent. Hello, everyone. I really would like to take all this energy in, the energy of our amazing developer community. We haven't seen you for 3 years, but trust me, we have heard you. On Yammer, on IdeaSat, and of course on the GitHub and on Twitter. We have collected your feedback about what you would like us to do to make your productivity tools better. We have made a really, really long backlog of all the productivity tools for our developers. What is missing? What are your pain points? But I want to share something with you today. To be really honest, we have not focused as much as we wanted to on this long productivity backlog. We couldn't prioritize it as much because running a platform at a scale is really hard. We have been really focused on the fundamentals of our service, to have a seamless service that is scalable, that is secure, and that is running really, really fast. We have been also really focused on automating almost everything. And when I say everything, I'm really serious. Automating almost everything in our daily operations, not only for us, but also for you, for our partners, for VAR, and our administrators. And it is so rewarding. I have been working in this product for 20 years, and honestly, it's so rewarding to see all that hard work is paying off. We have this extraordinary momentum. We are really growing great, and we have all this world coverage. And now that we have settled with our service fundamentals, we start to see an opening. And we ask our team, now we have that backlog that is, you have no idea how fine-tuned by Peter, a very nice PM. He is every year telling me, Aida, productivity backlog, Aida, productivity backlog. And actually, we have started to work on that a lot. And I'm going to tell you that we are going to focus more and more on the productivity tools that make your life, the developers, easier. I'm going to share, actually, some of those improvements and highly asked features that we have made for you in this release. There is a lot on the screen, but I'm going to actually walk you through to some of them, and the rest of them, I'm sure you have already looked at it in the workshop or in upcoming session. You are going to take a look. Let's start with the first one. Primary key intelligence improvement, one of our highly asked features. So in this release, we introduce a new decoration that has primary key with the order on the field. And the great thing about that is now when you are writing the code, for example, when you are sorting or filtering on the tables, then you can see all the keys with their order and get a better insight. let's look at another highly asked feature, setting the default application area. You know, there is a story about this. I think there was a frustrated developer that write to us on the Yammer. I'm adding a lot of control to a page right now, and I need to bloody type every single time this default application area. If not, you know, it doesn't show on the page. Why you hate us so much? So, I don't know, maybe you are sitting here somewhere in the room, just want to tell you, we truly don't. And that's why, in this release, we have enabled of controls to actually inherit the application area from the parent page or report. So now you can just add the application area, set it on the report or page, and that's it. So, the next one. I think many of you are aware that a few releases back, we really shipped a better permission set story in AL syntax. But we didn't provide you the tool to generate these permission sets in AL, just like we have done for XML permission sets. And obviously, many of you come and told us, you know, it's really, really hard. Every time I want to make a new object, I need to go and find the permission. It takes me out of context. It's waste of time. And actually, you told us, you know, that's why we are not moving to the new AL syntax, because it's really cumbersome. OK, we try to fix that. Now, it's the one-liner. We are introducing a new VS command that not only it can generate the permission set in AL, but also it can update it for all the existing objects in your active projects. So hopefully, with this, not only you use the permission sets in AL much more, you are going to convert it to this beautiful AL syntax. And the next one. Actually, the last one, and I really wanted to talk about this a bit, because, you know, I know how much you work hard, put a lot of your mental capacity, building a solution, and trying to perfect your algorithm. And of course, you don't want to, when somebody is debugging, start to see your code. So protecting your IP is super duper important for us. And in last year, we introduced the resource exposure policy that gives you the granular control. So you can actually set your code in a way that it wants to be exposed. You have a control over that. But then we didn't want to actually stop there, because some of you told us that many times when, sometimes if you have an app source app, you want to actually deploy it as a dev extension on the customer for customer to test. And in that case, you are not protected. Therefore, in this release, we have introduced for you the dev extension flag that actually, when you are using that, then you can apply all those exposure policies to your dev extension as well, and to be protected, which is, I think, is good, and I recommend you use it. So this was just few selected ones that I just chose to show you. But if you want to see more, of course, there is more. But before all that, I actually want we start to imagine something together. So imagine that you have a tool, that this tool, every time when you are extending a code, right, when you are extending, it can discover for you the events that are raised in the code that you are extending. And then you don't need to go and add those events manually. You can just copy the signature and put it on there and get going. Wouldn't that be nice to have such a tool? We shipped this tool 3 years ago. How many of you in the audience are using Event Recorder? Yeah, this is totally matching our telemetry, honestly. You know, the usage of event recorder in telemetry is really low. But let's hold that out there. I want to do another imagination. I promise you it's the last one together. So imagine you have 500 objects, and you are changing only 2 objects. When you are changing these 2 objects, now you want to publish it. Then you need to sit in front of a screen because you need all these objects are getting compiled, all 500 objects at the same time. And it is just waste of time. So wouldn't you think it would have been nice if the VS Code could have grabbed only that 2 objects that you modified, publish it just like that, and then you could test it? Wouldn't be that awesome that we have such a tool, especially when you are dealing with a lot of objects? You know, we have also that tool. How many of you use RAD, Rapid Application Development? Please tell the truth. Okay. Perfectly matches our telemetry if this is a sample audience, because the usage of RAD is even lower than event recorder. The whole point I'm trying to make is we are building these tools for you. We are really investing on them. And we think it will dramatically change your developer experience. And maybe we are not doing good enough, you know, maybe you have a lot of feedback and stuff, but please start using it and give us feedback, and we can always do better. If you heard about this tool just today, there are easy links for you to go and check them out. Very nice documentation on that. So I talked a lot about running a cloud service. But I would say, you know, when it comes to the tooling, it's not always about productivity. To keep our customer running, we need to make sure that we can fix the issues very quickly. And that's why we have built for you this beautiful set of tools. I hope many of you are already familiar with some of those. You know that if you want to see what is going on a page, and the page load, and the data on the page, you can use the page inspector. You can actually take a snapshot live from production environment and debug it offline through the snapshot debugger. You can look at the AL profiler and analyze your performance problem and track the execution time. Just few of those tools. All of them we have shipped, and I hope you are familiar with it. But let's do not imagining, but a what if. What if we could empower of customers, of consultants, of partner support to make the initial performance investigation themselves without involving your very expensive and scarce time, to dramatically reduce the support cost? And this is something that many of our partners, because they are in the same business as us, right, are talking about. The support is really expensive. And for that, think about if you can analyze as a user, as a customer, your performance issues yourself in our beautiful web client. Let's have a look. So I'm waiting for my screen to appear. I think everybody can see it. I need a small refresh. We were talking this morning if we have sacrificed enough goats for our demo gods, so I hope it has been enough. So imagine I'm a customer. I'm a user in the customer side. We saw there was 12% of you in the audience. Great. And recently I have seen that opening the sales invoices are really, really slow, and I want to figure out why. So I go to the first place I know, which is help. Beautiful help page, and I can see the help and support link in the bottom. I click on it. There is a section, troubleshooting, analyze performance. Nice, let me check that out, even though that seems quite advanced. And this opens the performance profiler. And like all other nice pages, it has a teaching tool. Let me figure out how I can work with this. Okay. This seems quite easy. So it is as easy as actually a start, reproduce, and a stop. I think I can manage that. Let me try. Okay. I get back to my sales invoice. And I'm going to try to open one of these. Before that, I need to start recording. So let me pick up one of those. OK, it's opening. Now I can see it's really, really slow. Finally, it opened up. Good. Then let me stop it. Wow. Now I can see a view of all the apps that were involved when you open the sales invoice. And I can actually see the time it takes for each app. And if I look at it, I can see the invoice customization app is taking quite some time. So let me see who owns that. Maybe there is something for that here. There is. So I can actually switch that by app publisher. This is actually my reseller that installed this quite recently. And I can see probably caused all the problem. Let me see if I can find some more information. What about here? Maybe I can dig a bit deeper, show technical information. OK. Now I have another pie chart that actually it shows the time it takes within each app. Wow, OK. I can see I was right, actually. The invoice customization really, really seems slow. So that is the problem. The app from my browser, at least I think so. And there is some other information here, some more detail. Time spent by application object, call tree. But remember, I'm a user. So this stuff seems a little bit too complicated for me. What I can do now, I can actually go ahead and create a support case and send it to my reseller, to my partner. But another thing I can do, I can actually share it through the OneDrive, the profile that I produce, or actually download it. So when I download this, OK, that's fine. I create my support case. I attach this, so it makes it much faster also for support to figure that out, hopefully. And now let's switch the roles. I'm the partner. I just receive this profile and the support case from my customer. And you know what I can do? Actually, I have great option, because I can send this to my support folks and tell them, actually, and those support folks, they can get this file, upload it in their own web client, performance profiler, and verify the case. Isn't that beautiful? Or after they verify the case, then I can ask my developer to have a look through this, dig a bit deeper to you through AL profiler in VS Code. And that is exactly what I have done. I asked my developer. So my developer actually received this and open it up. Maybe now I can actually sort it, so I can have this, I can see all the calls with the time that it took, but let me actually sort it, so I can see it with the time spent sorted. And it's quite obvious, right? Process sales invoice is taking a lot of time. And because I am a developer and I have access to code, I can actually navigate to code now and look into it. Or, even better, if I want to really analyze the execution and my variable statement, then I can attach to my production environment, grab a snapshot, download it to my project, and debug it offline. And that's exactly what I did. So I go and run this to debug offline. I hope, how many of you, by the way, until this runs, are using a snapshot debugger? I hope I see more hands. More hands. Matching again our telemetry, awesome. So going to the snap point in our code, I can actually see the actual time of the random time. 306, awesome. And if I look at the code cutter, I can clearly see the code that ran. And by the way, this is a new thing. So this visual indicator, we have added it in this release. If you want to know whether your conditional statement ran or not, so you can define a new snap point and continue your investigation, this is a very, very nice way to see clearly which part of code has ran. But in this case, you know, the cause is quite obvious. I don't need further information. The time is matching. And as a developer, I'm so happy. Because first of all, I didn't need to reproduce this issue. And the best part of that, I didn't waste my time going to look at another partner code. So if I come back to my slides, that was not all. We have actually added quite a few other debugging enhancements that I would like to share some of them with you. And for more, please attend the troubleshooting session. I think it happens right after the session. So, developing and troubleshooting in cloud sandboxes without direct SQL access is not easy, because then the AL calls that cause the lock, it's not easy to catch that. Of course, I know you can see the logs today in the web client, but then you always need to go and create a new session, and it is not interactive. It's quite cumbersome. So that's why we decided to add the SQL logs inside for you inside of the debugger. So next time when you are developing your code or when you are troubleshooting, it is much easier just in time to see what are the calls that's causing all the locking and fix all the performance issues. This is our Business Central app team. They are using this, and I can see they're sitting here. They are swearing by it. It's one of the very, very popular features. So the next one. Many of us has told us that you always want to investigate different scenarios in a context of a specific company. That's kind of important. Today, you need to go change it from web client or go and change the default company, and that's not very easy. So many of you voted and asked us, and we have delivered again. So now you can actually, from the launch, you can configure and set the company and start debugging, which I think is going to be really helping you to debug more efficiently. And then there are two more things that I wanted to share. So, you know, many of you told us that when you want to break, you don't want all the time break on try function. You really want to go and debug the unhandled extension. So now we have provided you this exclude try option that you can go and try and go and efficiently really debug after unhandled errors. And the last not least, the same applies on temporary record changes. You really want to go and figure out what are the troubles with committed changes. So if you would like, you can also exclude that. Just easier and better troubleshooting and debugging. So, Business Central, we really provide for you a powerful suite of tools to troubleshoot issues with data, with code, with performance. And we really encourage you to use this tool. By the way, our telemetry shows that many of you, higher percentage, but I hope it grows and grows, because it will really make your life easier and make your customer run more seamlessly. So if you want to know how to use all these tools, go to our master site, AKMS BC Troubleshoot. Thank you very much. Vincent, I think you want to explain some more about how we are tuning all that.
Thank you, Aida.
Thank you.
So Aida talked a lot about productivity improvement and troubleshooting and debugging. And so, of course, all these activities are very important as a developer, but once you have written a lot of code and done some debugging and fine-tuning of performance, you need to actually really tune your app. And it's really important that you do that in order for your customers to keep happy. You've seen, how many customers we have in the cloud today. So I want to talk a little bit about that subject. And the first thing I want to talk about is telemetry. You heard Aida mention telemetry a lot of times. From our point of view, we really use telemetry a lot for BC. I would like to see a show of hands. How many of you have enabled telemetry in your extension? Quite a few hands. Yeah, that's good, but I hope that after I've shown that and advertised for it, that next year when I ask the same question, I would like to see everybody raise their hands, because telemetry is really something you should use. So just a quick reminder, how do you enable telemetry in your application, in your extensions? First, you got to go into the Azure portal, create an application insight resource in Azure, and you'll get a key. And you go to the BC Admin Center and enter the application insight key in the Business Central Admin Center, and that's it. You have your telemetry up and running for that. But we wanted to, so that's pretty easy. And then you can start go to application insights on the Azure portal, and you can start setting up monitors, set up do some query on see what's going on in your extension. But we wanted to take it a step further and help you get started with building dashboards and getting really a lot of insights in your application. So for that, we're introducing the BC Usage Analytics app. It's a Power BI app. You go to powerbi.com, sign up, and download the app. The app is free, and you can start see what the telemetry we provide from the extension, what it gives you. I'm going to show you how it looks like instead of talking about it, because it's best to demo it. All right, so here I'm in. Can you see my screen now? Hang on, I need to, I think, turn off my presentation. All right, here we go. So this is, so if you go to Power BI and install this app, this is what you'll see. So it comes with a lot of test data. So the data that I'm going to show you here does not come from your extension, obviously, but what you need to do to see your telemetry from your extension, you need to click on that link, connect your data, enter the application insight key that I was talking about before, the look back period. This is how long time you want to go back and look at the data, and a couple of other information, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And once you have done that, all what I'm going to show you here, all the dashboards will light up, and you'll see all that data. You don't need to do anything in your extension, except for one thing, but I'll get back to that. So I just, there's, as you can see, there's tons of dashboards here, and I won't have time to go through all of them, so I'm just going to give you a quick tour. On the session dashboard, you can see how many sessions from various tenants, whether it's coming from production and sandbox, the type of sessions there are, I can go here and look at the client types. I can see here, for example, what browsers my customers are using and whether they are accessing BC from desktop or tablet, which client OS they have, even the resolution of their screen I can see as well. I can see where my users are located geographically. I can see here, for example, I have a lot of users in the United Kingdom. I can also take a look at the pages. I can see, for example, here that the role center is one of the most shown page, not so surprisingly. Tons of other information. Let me jump to the errors dashboard. I can see how many errors my users get. There's no, for example, here I can see there's no login errors, which is great, but there are some error dialogues. So I can drill down in that and see which dialogues are actually shown and how many times. So there's really a lot of information here. Performance, there's also some great performance dashboard. We give you some recommendation of things you could do for optimizing the performance of your extension. I can see things on page views, how long time it takes to display certain pages, long-running SQL queries, long-running AL methods. So tons of information and a lot more. So just that was just to give you a quick tour of what you can do. So go and try it out, play with it. You'll see that's really, really great. There's one dashboard that won't light up, and this is the one called feature usage. So if you want data from your extension, you will need to write some code there to actually emit your own telemetry. And that's a way, and you don't need to write a lot of code, it's pretty easy, but that's a way you can go and get telemetry about your feature, about what your extension is doing. But if you don't do it, you'll get all the other data that's just show you for free. So I really, really encourage you to go and use this app. Again, it's free. Application Insight is not free, but it's not very expensive. The app from Power BI is free. And let me get back to the presentation here. Here we go. So a few links, aka.ams/BC telemetry report that will take you directly to the Power BI store where you can download the app. And if you go on aka.ams/BC telemetry samples, you'll get to our BC Tech GitHub repository where there's tons of samples and videos and how to get started with telemetry. By the way, are you familiar with the BC Tech repo? Yeah, a few hands. So you'll hear me advertise about it several times during this keynote. It's a great place to get all sorts of resources. There's tons of samples, tons of demos there, code you can use, and you can even contribute. But I'll talk about it again. All right. Now I'm going to talk about moving data, because what we can see in our telemetry is when you're moving data around, it really takes a long time. And we can see that especially, for example, in upgrade scenarios when you're upgrading your extension from one version to the next, it's very common that you will need to transfer a large amount of data. And usually that takes a long time. And depending, of course, on how much data, but if you have even a few thousand records, it will slow down your upgrade. So this is why we're introducing data transfer at lightning speed. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see some code, and that's the type of code you would usually write to transfer data from one table to the other. Pretty straightforward. I have a origin table and a destination table. Do a simple loop and copy each field over. And you can imagine when you do that, you iterate in AL, so it goes back and forth between AL and SQL, and for each iteration of the loop, it generates a certain number of SQL statements. I don't know how many, but let's assume that it generates, I don't know, maybe 5 SQL statements. So if you have 1,000 records, you will generate 5,000 SQL statements. But if you have 1 million records, you will generate 5 million SQL statements. So as you can imagine, this is not a very efficient way to move data within a database. And actually, SQL is very good at moving large amount of data. So the idea is to let SQL do that operation for you instead of iterating through AL. And this is why we're introducing the data transfer object. So this is a new way to move large amount of data. So it's very simple. As you can see, you create a data transfer object, indicate, set up which table you are copying from and which table you're copied to, set up which fields you want to copy, and call the copy fields method, and that's it. And that will transfer the data in a few SQL statements. No matter how many records you have in a table, that will be the same amount of SQL statement that will be executed within SQL. Of course, the gain in time depends on how large the tables are, obviously, and how many fields you copy, but we've made some experiment, and we can see that in certain scenarios, we have a performance improvement by a factor up to 200. So really, if you have, really encourage you to use this new construct. If you have code that looks like on the left-hand side of my slides, please go and refactor your code to look what's on the left-hand side. And you'll see, really significant performance improvement. So talking about performance improvement, a while ago we released the Business Central Performance Toolkit. And the reason why anybody familiar with it? Yeah, a few people, great. So the reason why we released that toolkit, if you're not familiar with it, is because very often we get that question. I have this customer with, that much data, and my customer is doing so many transactions per hour. Is my system going to perform? And truly, we cannot really answer that question for the simple reason that the solution, as you well know, the solution that is running at the customer is a combination of the Microsoft app and your app, and maybe even some other third-party app. That means the code that is running, we don't know anything about the code that is running. And the best way to assess the performance of a system like this is actually to test it out. So that's why we introduced the Performance Toolkit, which is a great toolkit that allows you to simulate your scenarios and the scenarios that you might be concerned about performance-wise, and simulate a large amount of users accessing the system simultaneously. So in order to leverage the Performance Toolkit, you need to install the Business Performance Toolkit AL extension from the App Store. And then you need to get some PowerShell scripts from the DVD or from a Docker environment to launch the test and run the tests. Then you probably want to go to GitHub and get some sample tests to get you started and use them as a template and kind of rewrite them to write your own scenarios. And you will, of course, need to renumber the test to be in your ID range. And then you're ready to start writing texts. So it's not very complicated, but it's still quite a few steps to get you started. And in order to make the adoption of the Business Central Performance Toolkit even easier, we're introducing the BCPT VS Code extension. So it's not an AL extension, not to be confused with an AL extension. It's a Visual Studio Code extension. But let me show you how it works. So here I'm in Visual Studio Code, and I have installed the Business Central Performance Toolkit extension, and I go and set up a new, I want to set up a new project, and I pointed it to my sandbox. So look at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that's where it's interesting. I need to authenticate here, but if you look at the bottom right corner, you'll see what's going on in VS Code. So it's fetching information from the environment, right? And then I indicate where I want to save my project here. And now it's installing the Business Central Performance Toolkit. And once that's done, it's downloading the test and remembering them for you. So everything is automated. You don't need to do anything here. And it's adding the configuration for the app. So it's going to be the app.json and the launch.json are going to be configured properly. So I don't have to do that either. And it's copying the PowerShell script, so I'll have them in my project, and that's it. Now I can open the project that's got created. So it's a new L extension. And you'll see here I have all the scripts available there, ready to run. My launch.json is configured, and my up.json is configured, pointing to my sandbox environment. And I have the tests here ready to be customized. So I just need to download symbols. Again, I'm downloading the symbols from my sandbox here. And when that's done, I can go ahead and compile and publish this app. And it will open, in a second, it will open Business Central right on onto the Business Central Performance Toolkit suite page. And I can start creating a new test suite here. So here we go, it's compiling here. Let's give it a couple of seconds, and it's opening directly into the Performance Toolkit test page, suite page. And I can just go ahead and create a new test suite from here and pick the tests that I want to include in that test suite. So they are all the tests that were in my solution that are available there. So there you go. That's how easy it is to get started with the Business Central Performance Toolkit. So we'll release that Visual Studio Code extension is not available quite yet on the store, but we'll release it very, very soon. So that was a couple of things I wanted to share about fine-tuning your application. I hope you make use of these tools. But another way now we talked about productivity and how to be more efficient and do more with our tools. But another way to be more productive is also to leverage and integrate with some of the other great technology we have at Microsoft. And to talk about that, I would like to invite Horina on stage. There you go.
Thank you, Vincent. So I'm very excited to be here today in Antwerp. As Vincent mentioned, it has been quite some years, and actually my first time is exactly the first badge on Luke's slide on 2013, TechDays 2013. So let's start talking about Power Platform, and let's remind ourselves what is the core mission of Microsoft Power Platform. That is to enable everyone to foster innovation. And many of us, I'm sure we have heard a lot this phrase that statistics say that in the next half a decade we will be building 500 million apps. And when I hear this, I'm thinking, 500 million apps? This is a huge number, and can we really do that? And what it means for us as developers, it means that we should be able to deliver core value to customers fast. Now, we tend to think that Power Platform comes with simplicity for the end user and for citizen developers, but we professional developers are the ones that are building high scalable, high quality, repetitive solutions that help our customers automate business processes. So the thing is that AL, as Vincent mentioned, and we have seen also Aida's fantastic demos, is very powerful and is very flexible, and is a tool that you can use to do a ton of things. But Power Platform brings a whole new dimension for you in terms of developer productivity. Because this is what it is in essence, right? It's an amazing set of tools that you can use on top of the Microsoft Cloud to build state-of-the-art solutions for your customers. Now let's take a peek at the Microsoft Power Platform universe. What do we have here? We have 600 plus connectors, and whenever I talk with the Power Automate and Power Apps team, they tell me this number is growing as we speak. And these connectors are ready for you to use them to help you connect your solutions with external systems, build and automate our existing systems, and so on. And then we have, of course, the Dataverse stack, which is a whole new other dimension. It's a highly scaled, high trusted data platform that comes with a ton of innovation, the AI, the data analysis, the data search, and so on. Power Apps, Power Pages, Power Automate are also there for you to help you surface data to your users and also automate processes. Let's not forget Dynamics 365 is also part of this universe. And together with the Microsoft 365 collaborative solutions and the power of the Azure cloud, the development tools we have available, GitHub and VS Code, all of these makes Power Platform one of the most innovative, comprehensive innovation engine you have available, also at your fingertips here in Business Central. Because this is the message that we want to convey to you today. That is that Business Central is deeply integrated with Power Platform. We have Power BI connectors to build your reports. We have the Power Platform connectors. We have just recently GA in April release, and they are also ready for you to build Power Apps, mobile apps, go and build fantastic assistant bots for your customers. And then again, the Dataverse. The Dataverse stack is also a priority for us in the sense that we have the Dataverse synchronization with Dynamics 365 and the virtual tables. And what we can promise to you is that in the upcoming ways, we will continue these investments and we will continue to enable more and more scenarios that will light up in your solutions with very little cost from development perspective. So now, I'm supposed to tell you a story, and let's see if I actually sacrificed any goats to the demo gods, but let's give it a try. So I'm going to switch to my machine. Yes. So today it is our 10-year anniversary for BC TechDays, right? And Luke and his team has started organizing this many, many months ago. We all know that. And the team has been very busy dealing with vendors, suppliers. Invoices are flying around. And one of them has landed in my inbox here. Because today, in this story, I will also be part of the team that is helping Luke organize the event. So let's go ahead and preview this invoice and see what it entails. Okay, these are the refreshments that Luke has ordered for this conference. We almost have tasted with our eyes these beers a couple of minutes ago. And notice here that there is also one Tuborg green beer, which somehow mysteriously sneak into this invoice. Someone out there must have really insisted that they only drink Danish beer. Now, let's see how Business Central can help Luke and his team today to process this invoice with only a couple of clicks. Now, only a couple. We are going to use for this the Outlook add-in, and let's send this document to the backend. So we're going to go to the attachments page and attach directly from email. And then we press OK, and this document has now landed in Business Central. Now, here we have our special vendor that Luke and his team are using. And we always strive to order the best beers to a special brewery, which we call Best Brewery. And since they're using Business Central, I mean, this vendor could just be Best Brewery for BC. Now, let's see if Business Central can help me process this invoice with only one click. And I can see here that in the Automate menu, I have process invoice action. That is so great. And looking at this action when I'm running it now, it is obvious to me that this is an automation flow action, and because I recognize the Power Automate Maker experience right here embedded within Business Central. So let me go ahead and run this flow. And another thing that I wanted to mention here is that is possible, all of this is possible because in the April release, we have brought Power Automate, the automation platform that everybody loves, in the heart of Business Central. And what does that mean, that Power Automate now is part of the Business Central DNA? It simply means that you will have this automate context menu pervasive across Business Central pages, and you will be able directly from within web client to create, manage, and run flows. But I am planning to use this action quite a lot. And right now it's somewhere buried in the More Options menu. So let me go ahead and see if I can actually move this process invoice action right here in my promoted area. Now that's good. Now this action is available for me with one click. How cool is that? So now that my action has run, I have here my own personal chat with Power Automate, and Power Automate is doing a great job and notifying me, hey, your invoice is ready for you to review. So let's go ahead and do that. Of course, we need to check, this is an automation flow which I have just recently built, so we need to check if the information actually matches. So let's go ahead and do so. And it does. And again, this Tuborg beer here. I mean, I don't understand. So let's go ahead and share this with the rest of the BC TechDays team and see if we can actually solve this mystery. And I'm going to share this with the rest of my team. I must say, share to teams is also one of my favorite actions. I like to talk a lot, as many of you know, and I like to collaborate also with my peers. So let's see here. I also have a new features from Microsoft. Now I don't only share the link to this record, but also I get a beautiful adaptive card which gives me at a glimpse the information I need about this invoice. So I'm going to share this on my team's channel. And let's go ahead here and see if the team has received my message. And it did. But I can actually go here one step further and simply pin this invoice on the top of my channel. And once I go ahead and do that, I can start a conversation and say, hey, anyone knows who ordered the Tuborg beer? And let's hope my colleagues will help me solve this mystery. Now, isn't this just magical? I know I'm a little bit biased, since I love Power Platform, but let's think about this. The data just, okay. This is because Luke supports Denmark. Aha, so the mysterious order was of you because of you, Luke. Okay, one Tuborg beer on you, that's fine. So, yeah. So as I was saying, look at how data actually flows seamlessly between so many systems, between Outlook, between Business Central, Power Automate, come back to Teams, and Business Central again. And all of this, you can do it without the end users actually noticing the data connection points you have here. And just to kind of show you that this is not just magic, we can take a look at the maker experience in Power Automate for the process invoice flow. So what do we see here? We see that we have used the for a selected record trigger This is a brand new trigger we have introduced in April release, which actually has a great capability of connecting the context of your record in the Business Central page with the automation flow. So your record will be passed to this flow. Another cool thing that client engineers also loved to play with in preparing this demo for us today, that is, how did we extract the information from invoices? And that is using AI Builder. Again, an innovative technology we have available here with Power Platform. And I just want to say that, yes, the team had fun, but you know, they have also work to do. So we just actually used the pre-built model, AI model that AI Builder comes with. So it's not like we have spent a ton of time preparing this flow. And then the flow is fairly simple. We go ahead and create the invoice header with this, the lines. We notify on the Teams channel that with the adaptive card that the document has been registered as invoice. And also we notify by mail, and I can actually confirm here that I did receive an email with the purchase invoice. So that concludes my demo. Again, it is something that we have stitched together in a couple of days, special for this event to celebrate here the 10-year anniversary for BC. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did building and preparing for it. So let's come back to slides now. Let me see, it's this one, right? And yeah, okay, so before I wrap, actually, I had one more slide that I wanted to show, but somehow it didn't reach into the PowerPoint. And that is about how automation flow actions work. So basically, in this release, now in October, the automation flow actions will have a correspondent in AL that we call custom actions. And these custom actions will actually point to your flow, to your automate flow, and to your flow environment. So how you build these solutions, you go ahead, you write your flows on Power Automate on your Maker experience, you package them as an app source solution, then you go to AL, you write code for these automation flow actions, you package them in an extension, and there you go. You're ready to distribute this to your customers. Now, okay, I can now move on to the next topic, which is the modern action bar. And somehow, for the ones who pay attention, you probably noticed that I have already showed one of the goodies when I customized the process invoice action. But let's go more into it. So in this release, we have been modernizing, we have started a journey of modernizing the action bar. And as always, what we have done is we have taken an analysis of 360 degrees analysis of all the data points we had on how our users interact with the action bar. And what it made it more interesting this time around, that is the amount of telemetry we had available for identifying sequencing and patterns. Because in many ways, what we can clearly say is that the decision that we have made when we have done the action bar reorganizations, they are actually very much telemetry driven. 280 million telemetry data points. I mean, we couldn't resist of using that much data, right? And we have also run heuristics on the 95% of most used action with a strong focus on efficiency and consistency of the actions. We have also deeply taken a look at your feedback, and not only at your feedback, but your users' feedback in how the action bar is being used and what are the gaps and what are the features that our users will want to see in the product. So how did the modern action bar come to life? Well, some of the feedback was we wanted to have intuitive and flexible personalization. And for this, we needed to have a new way of defining the action structures and menus in AL pages. We have introduced a new concept called action ref that I'm going to talk a little bit about in a second. The other part that was really a top priority for us was backward compatibility. Because when you go to your customers and enable the modern action bar, we wanted to make sure that the personalization and customizations are not going to be lost. And we also have invested quite a lot in the tooling, so that transition between the old model and the new one is very smooth. We also had a focus on efficiency, and this is why we have done a lot of small optimizations of the action bar and how the actions are rendered in that area. We have introduced a new control split button that you're going to see it in action and love it, just as I do. And then we also have focused on the consistency of actions. Actions covering 95% of all usage should not be only available in more option area. This is something that we have seen from our telemetry, and we have really tried to make sure that these actions will be available for you in the promoted area, maybe with one click even, right? Now, coming back to the AL meta model and what were these two main concepts that powers the new action bar. So one of them is the promoted area. We wanted to make sure that the promoted area is a first-class citizen on AL pages. And why is that? Because otherwise we could not have had this flexibility on the personalization. If you remember, for many of you I think do, Windows Client did have personalization of promoted area, no doubt, but it was somewhere stored on an XML file, distributed on all client machines, very hard to upgrade and very cumbersome to deal with. And this is why we wanted to make sure the AL meta model is strong enough for us to build a great UI with it. The other concept is action ref. The action refs are a light representation of an action, and here the principle has been, we want you to be able to have your actions where you would like in the action, define them as you want, but not duplicate the code, right? So you write your action code once, and then you point your action ref to the base action, and you can surface it where you want on the page. And we have primarily used it for promoted areas, but there are more other usages. And I'm sure you will see that in the sessions. So now let's switch to my machine and see if I can show you a sneak peek of how the action bar looks right now on the pages where the modern action bar is enabled. So the first thing we notice here is that the action bar opens by default in pinned mode. That is a request we had from many users, and also feedback we have gotten from users' research. We also have taken a look at consistency with Office products and Microsoft 365, of course. There, we always have the home area. In the home area, you can find your most used actions. And this is why we kind of renamed the process area to home. And these are the magical split buttons. I must admit that when I saw it on the mock-up from our fantastic UX team, I was thinking, okay, what is really so cool about it, right? But actually, it's pretty awesome. The reason being, because first of all, it's just a group, like from a perspective, but is rendered as a split button. The other thing, it gives you the advantage, you can group these similar actions But you don't have to think now, what is the caption? Like, can I have some other new term that didn't appear in the action bar before? Is it navigate? Is it navigate one? Is it related or what it is, right? So you can group them without necessarily thinking what the caption should be. And the most important thing is the first and most used action is clickable, right? So you go ahead and post this. I don't feel like it. And let me show you another very interesting thing you can do with it, which is like, let's assume I'm not happy with post, but I normally use post and new. I can just go ahead and move this around, and now post and new become my most used action. Another interesting feature is also that you can go ahead and reorder the actions here in the promoted area. We are supporting now subgroups in the promoted area, and you can also play around with these menus if you wish so. So demos here can go forever. You can move around actions, promote them, demote them, do whatever you want. Basically, right now the action bar is as flexible as we want it to be. There are still more work to come and more scenarios to enable, but from our perspective, it's a great step forward. Also, more options area, we have reduced clutter here, meaning once you promote your actions, they will not be available in the more options area anymore. So we have reduced clutter here. And one more detail before I wrap up, that is the navigate menu. So some of you probably remember navigate menu. That was also confusing for many of our new users and maybe also part of existing users. And this is why we have collapsed the data-bound actions into the entity menu. So right now, invoice, for example, menu contains also some of the actions from the navigate area. So that concludes my demo on the action bar. And I think what you have seen is just the tip of the iceberg, and you will see a lot more in the sessions today and tomorrow. And now let's continue on the modernization theme, and let's hear how flexible our permission system has become. Thank you, Baxi.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Horina. So we are going to modernize the permission system as well. It is not a secret that the permission system is not really easy to set up. It's not easy to create new permissions, even though we got a whole lot of new features for generating permission sets and also moving the permissions to metadata. But in all honesty, besides that, we haven't really made changes to the permission system since it was created in the very early days of Navision. So it is time to modernize it for sure. Let's take first a look at the goals for this. So one of the goals is, as I said, to make this usable and also make it understandable. We want to have well-defined building blocks that you can assign to users. And we want to have some granularity where we can assign, big areas of permissions or very fine, small areas of permissions. And to do that, we need to build a hierarchy instead, so you can select which level in the hierarchy that you want to assign. We also want them to be easy to understand. So rather than only having permission sets that are defined in different areas of the application, we want to have scenario-driven permission sets. So you can assign permissions for a specific scenario, like posting an invoice, rather having a full area of invoicing. So that gives you a much more flexibility in this. We have, of course, also heard the feedback that they are really hard to maintain. And especially one thing has given you a lot of pain. That is, if you needed to have a slightly different permission set than one of ours, then you basically needed to create a copy. And every time that we make changes to our permission sets, you would need to remember to make those changes as well. And that, of course, is very cumbersome. So one of the things we want to do here is we want to be able to create permission sets based on another permission set. And this is exactly how we are creating this hierarchy. Then there's also actually a number of areas in the applications where it's actually not necessary to have permissions. You know, think of it, for example, the changelog. Why do you need to have permissions to write to the changelog? It's kind of built-in functionality, and everyone should have that. So we want to make some functionality that can make it easy to define those permissions, so you don't need to assign it to the users. Let me just drill into a couple of new features that we are coming with here. One of them is really the features that we are using to build the hierarchy that I just talked about. The ability to include permission sets when you're creating permission sets, and the ability to exclude permission sets. So the exclude is very important here as well. So if we look at the example that I have here, I have a permission set that I'm creating that's called test tables restricted, and it includes two other permission sets, the system application test tables and the local test tables. But it actually also excludes another permission set, which is called the restricted local test tables. And the resulting permission set you'll get is kind of the blue area that you see on the slide here, where we first add up all the included ones, and then we subtract the excluded ones. So with this, we can build some very powerful hierarchies that gives exactly the permissions that users need. The other functionality that we have introduced in this release is the so-called inherent permissions. As I said before, there are sometimes some areas where you just want to give the system permission, and you don't need to assign those to the users. And the example I have here is actually a procedure, get default work date, which has an attribute here that's called inherent permissions that gives you indirect read access to the GL entry table. So you don't need to assign that permission to any users, because whenever they call this function, they will automatically get this permission. Right now, the inherent permission property is only working on the method scope here, but we are working also of enabling this at the object level, so you can have larger objects that have specific permissions built in. Let me take a step back here, and when we are saying modernizing the permission system, what progress have we done so far, and what is the plans going forward? So, as I said before, we have been working on a lot of tools in the toolbox, so we can build up some good permission sets. Here, most importantly, we moved it to metadata, so you can actually update your permission sets while you update your code. So that's a very important piece. And then the two things that I just mentioned here, the include and exclude permissions and the inherent permissions. We also switched the entire application to have permissions as metadata. We did that a couple of releases ago. And in this release, we're actually starting to build up this hierarchy of permission sets. And if you look at two specific areas, if you look at the system application, you will actually be able to see how we have done that. Also, there's a very important scenario-driven permission set called login permissions, because login is actually a very important scenario. So there you can kind of get a flavor of how we are thinking about building those permission sets as well. But before we go any further, we want to start using the inherent permissions as well, because we need to remove as much from the permission of the application that you don't need to set permissions for before we start building more permission sets. And then we really need to do this right, because if we are going to create a completely new permission structure, a hierarchical permission structure for the application, we want to do it right. So we want to take some time actually thinking about what is the taxonomy of the permission sets. you have some areas maybe, and then you have some scenarios, but we need to figure that out before we start implementing it. And then finally, of course, we need to start implementing it and release it to you. This is going to be a longer process because we want to do this absolutely right. So you shouldn't expect that the next release will have a completely recreated permission system. But we are starting on this now, and I'm sure it's going to be much, much easier to assign permissions and create new permissions going forward. And that actually wraps up the engineering side of this.
Yeah, thank you, Boxy. So now you've seen how we've talked about productivity, how to be more productive, how to troubleshoot and fine-tune your app. We've talked about how to integrate with other products and how to modernize the app. And now when you've done all these, the next thing you need to take care of is the life cycle of your solution and your operations. And so for that, I would like to invite Freddy on stage to talk about DevOps. Thank you.
I think this one is on. Yeah, is it? Oh, yeah. Now it's on. You heard Horina talk about modernizing the action bar and Boxy about modernizing the permissions. Why doesn't it say modernizing DevOps here? But so that's what I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to introduce somebody to you. I'm going to introduce, let's see, do we have, okay, here? Simon. Simon works for a partner. Simon is the lead of a team, and they've been creating an app for a customer. And Simon is happy, as you can see. Simon is done. They're delivering the app, and the customer is also happy. But the customer also follows the trend in IT world. And they know something which Simon did not anticipate. They are asking Simon about source control and continuous integration. And Simon says, yeah, we have source control, and every time a single developer is doing anything, we integrate it with the other guys. So isn't that what you mean by continuous integration? Well, not entirely. What about automated test execution? And you heard about the performance test. We can automate those as well. Shouldn't we make sure that the next change you do to this app doesn't kill performance for us, your customer? And Simon gets a little confused. Now the customer throws around a number of other words like dependency management and all of these things, and Simon starts to get worried. And yeah, do you test our app for the next major? And do we do continuous deployment, continuous delivery? Simon is kind of a little worried now. And then when he kind of realizes that he needs to maintain all of this, he starts to cry. And when he realizes that he needs to do that for many, many apps, he's crying his eyes out, right? Until he discovers ALGO for GitHub. ALGO for GitHub is a DevOps tool for Business Central partners, and it doesn't require you to know anything about DevOps, about Docker, about YAML, about PowerShell, or anything like that. It is a plug-and-play tool. It is where DevOps becomes a tool instead of an investment area. And ALGO for GitHub supports all of the things that were worrying Simon just a moment ago. In fact, it does that out of the box, and it's a simple plug-and-play solution. So Simon is happy again. So I'll do a short demo of how Simon is using this. And Simon's app, really what he has his files right here in a folder. And I want to create a repository with these apps. So the thing that Simon needs to do is to go AKMS, ALGO PTE, because it's a PTE that he's creating. And this one will log me into to GitHub. And I'll say use this template to create a new repository based on this template. I'll select an owner. I'll just put it in my, that's not Simon. Oh, sorry about that. My test 3. And I'll say private and create a repository. For the DevOps piece, I'm now done. Oh, I'm almost done, right? Now I'm done. So this is what it takes to set up DevOps for the project. Of course, we need to add the file still, and we do that by just adding the project to this one. Add files, let's find these things and then drag them into this, and GitHub will enumerate the folders and add these files to my repository. Let's scroll down and just add these to a branch, propose the changes, and GitHub will do some work on processing the files and creating a pull request for me. Sometimes this takes minutes, sometimes it takes seconds, and I'll just create this pull request. And the pull request is automatically then added to GitHub, and the CI/CD pipeline automatically kicks in and builds your test, build your app, and runs the test on that app. So I didn't do anything. I just created a repository and added the code. Now you might think that it can't be that simple, right? I mean, we are special. We have a lot of things that other partners don't have, so we can't use that for just out of the box. But in fact, I had workshops with a number of partners the 2 last day, and I think all partners in that workshop ended out coming out of the workshop saying, we can use that, even though every partner before the workshop said, we don't think we can. So, a few other things. If we look at ALGO for GitHub, the secret sauce of ALGO for GitHub is really all of these workflows that are there to help you work with ALGO for GitHub. And the one action that I want to promote here is the very last one here, update ALGO system files. As you probably know, if you have created a GitHub repository based on a template, then you kind of took a copy of that, and now you're lost with how that template looked at that point in time. Well, not with ALGO for GitHub. With that one, you can apply new changes to the template. You will never be lost in an old version, and you'll always be running towards the version of ALGO that you originally took, and then you can update to the newest version and simply have the latest innovations and the latest bits of ALGO for GitHub just by running a workflow. So with that, for more information, I'll be at the Ask the Experts booth today, if you have any questions on that. AKMS, ALGO, and then our ALGO for GitHub group on Yammer, and then my blog, of course. And I'll leave you with 2 statements. One of them is that people saying that they're too busy to set up DevOps is kind of like a woodcutter who's saying he's too busy to sharpen his saw, right? And then I did claim that this could be used for all partners, but let's see if Boxy can use that as well for his development team.
Thank you, Freddy. Thank you, Freddy. This looks amazing. Can you hear me? Yeah. So thank you, Freddy. This looks amazing, and yes, I must admit, this is certainly usable for developers. And I actually want to make an announcement here because we are going to use this because we obviously want happy developers as well. I can see them smiling already. So we are moving the system application to ALGO for GitHub. So the system application is already on GitHub, but to be honest, the way it works today is that the master, the source for this, is our internal repository, and then whenever we make changes to it, we actually create a pull request to move those changes to GitHub. So GitHub is not the source today, but we're going to change this. We're going to make ALGO for GitHub the primary environment for developers and for testing of the system application. And that means that our developers in Microsoft will making pull requests directly in GitHub, and you'll be able to follow it as it happens, and you'll be able to comment on it, and you will also be able to contribute to it directly on GitHub, just like our engineers. And with that, I actually want to welcome you all to the new system application team on GitHub. Welcome to the team. So let's take a little step back here, talk about what we have done with the application on GitHub so far. So right now we have 83 extensions on GitHub, and that's actually excluding the local variations and test tools and all our tests there. At the last time we met here in 2019, we had about 30 extensions there. So it's been increased a lot here. Similar on the system application, we had about 40 the last time we met, and now we are 81, so also more than double that amount. So it's great to see all those contributions to that. And we just alone, the 42, the last year we've seen 42 contributions that actually made it into the product. So there's been some that didn't make it into the product, of course, but 42 that made it into the product. So thank you all for those contributions to GitHub and to making the application better. And if you want to contribute, there's a couple of AKAs on the screen here where you can see how you can get started on contributing to this. So what is next then for the application on GitHub? Where do we want to take this? We have a lot of extensions already, and we have the system application now on ALGO for GitHub, and that's obviously the first step here. The second step is that every new feature that we built, whether it's something that's small, or it's a local feature, or it's a major new thing, we're going to make that as an extension, and we're going to make that available on GitHub. A good example for that is actually the Shopify connector that we built here and released last year. That is an extension on GitHub. So you can all see and follow and contribute and comment and what do. Similar, whenever we take functionality out of the base application, and that could be some W1 functionality, or it could be some local functionality. Then we make it into an extension, and we put it on GitHub. And a good example of that is the Introstat functionality that we are shipping in the next release here, where we have taken Introstat actually from multiple localizations and created one big Introstat implementation that's going to eventually replace those. We put it on GitHub as an extension, and you're all welcome to see and contribute to that. Right now we have, as you probably all know, the ideas website, or aka.ms/BC ideas, and we have GitHub as another source for getting feedback from you and from our customers, and they're not totally aligned. So the BC ideas have this ability to vote, so you can suggest features and others can vote on those. We don't have that on GitHub yet, but on GitHub we can we can have some code development going on, and that's really powerful as well. And we really need to align these two things. So maybe we get some voting capabilities into the GitHub, or we get some contribution capabilities into BC ideas. But we need to align these, and our dream here is that we can have some of the features that is on BC ideas that we actually have a collaborative engineering experience on GitHub on. So we actually start implementing some of those ideas on GitHub. So we need to be aligning these two. And finally, I also want to announce here that we do want to start taking pull requests for the base application. It is something that we have had requests for a long time, But in all honesty, if we look at all the checks that our base application goes through before we can actually ship this, it is pretty difficult to take pull requests from this. But we are going to pilot this, and hopefully we find a good way for handling all this. So going forward, we can get more and more of the base application there, and are actually also taking real pull requests on the base application. So as you can see, we are doing a lot, and the future for the application is on GitHub, and we are, step by step moving closer and closer to getting more and more of the application on GitHub, so we can all work together on this great application. Thank you.
Thank you, Boxy. Thank you, Boxy. So we really look forward to your contribution on GitHub and on the app. I'm looking for the clicker. Here it is. All right. So a couple of things about technologies and a call to action. I'm going to talk about a few things here that might impact you, and I think we thought we wanted to give you a heads up on these things. So the first thing is the move to OAuth. So what is that? We are moving to OAuth. What does that mean? That means that the web access keys, also known as basic authentication, is deprecated, and we will remove them from the product very soon. And you should be using OAuth 2 instead. Why are we doing that? Well, security. Security. As we move to the cloud, we need constantly to harden on security, and the move to OAuth 2 is part of that. So we're moving the entire Business Central to this much more secure way of authenticating. And when is this going to happen? Well, actually now, we were supposed to remove it from the product already in the spring release, but we could see from our telemetry that a lot of you were still using it. So we kind of held on to it a little bit more, a little longer, but we are going to remove it on the 1st of October. So there's still a little bit of time, but if you're using web access key, you need to go and refactor your code. Otherwise, any web access you do to BC will stop working. There's a sample on BC Tech at this link that shows how to do a REST client using OAuth 2. You see it's pretty simple. It's not very different than using web access key, and you can use that sample as a starting point. The next thing I want to announce is that we are moving to .NET Core. And what does that mean? Well, we already have quite a few components. Pretty much every component is in Business Central are already on .NET Core, but one of the last one and the hardest one we had to migrate was the NST. And the NST will be running on .NET Core very, very soon. And that means for you that you have server-side .NET add-ins, you need to migrate them to .NET Standard as a minimum. Actually, there is another option which I'll talk about on my next slide, which is the one we recommend for you to move and stay compatible with .NET Core. So why are we doing that? Well, .NET Core is offering a significantly better performance, and although the .NET framework is still supported, it's effectively in sustain engineering. And the entire Azure is on .NET Core. So if we want to leverage other services, other libraries, we also need to be on .NET Core ourselves in order to stay current and evolve with Azure. And as I mentioned, the .NET framework is on sustain engineering, and .NET Core is really where Microsoft is investing for the future and doing all the improvements. When is this going to happen? Well, 2023 release wave 1. This is when we will release NST on .NET Core. So be ready for it, and you should start and update your server-side add-ins before that. How many of you have server-side add-ins? Well, I don't see many hands. That's good. That means there's not a lot of work to do. So the architecture we recommend to move your server-side add-in is the following. If you have a server-side add-in, it looks like this. You have some .NET code, and you probably call it through a .NET interop, either from an EL extension or possibly even through the customized base app. And what you could do when everything will be running in the .NET Core runtime is migrate your own add-ins to .NET Core. But if you reference a third-party library which doesn't have a .NET Core version, then you will not be able to do that. So instead, what we recommend is to move to a cloud-ready architecture, which looks like this. And in order to do that, it's pretty simple. You take your server-side add-in and whatever third-party library you reference and put them in a function app in the cloud. And that's pretty straightforward and very simple. And instead of using .NET interop, you call your .NET server-side add-in through HTTP request, and that's it. And whether your NST is running on-prem or in the cloud, that doesn't matter. This works. So this is really, truly the architecture we recommend. There is a sample on BC Tech, again, where there is a sample code before the migration to a function app and after, so you can see how it's done. So go and check it out. Now, we come to the section that we know you enjoy at Tech Days. It's a tradition. We always have a section called From the Lab, where we show you things which might or might not make it to the product, prototypes, experiment we're doing. I've shown things in the past which never made it to the product, but you always give us the feedback that you like that section, so this time shouldn't be an exception. Although the things I'm going to show you now, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident they will make it to the product because we are very, very close. So let's start with the first prototype I want to show you, which is actually something that is more of a user feature. So when we have a lot of lists in Business Central, I'm sure you're aware of, and if I look at my sales order here, for example, we have underneath to display that list, we are using a web control, which is a grid control, and we are going soon to replace that control with a much more advanced one, which can do a lot of things, and gradually we'll turn on some of the features that this grid can do, and I want to give you a quick appetizer of what's possible. So if I go here, and you're familiar with the tile view for the list, now the last menu item called Analysis, you will not see it in the product. That's the prototype part. But if I turn the grid here on Analysis mode, I can you can see here I can do a lot of cool stuff. For example, I can go and let's look at the amount of my sales order. I can mark some of them, and you see at the bottom the sum of it, the min and max, the count, so something you might be familiar with from Excel. I can do that directly now in the product without having to export to Excel. I can do grouping, for example, by customer names. So I have my customers here, and I can go and expand and in a kind of tree view, so I can do some grouping. I can go and pin that column on the left, sorry, which you can do already we can already do that with the grid we have, but I can also pin another column here on the left on the right if I want to, and it's very useful, for example, if you have very large, very wide lists, right? Let me show you another cool feature in that as well. Let's go back to grab the amount column here, and if I go and show mark my customers with the amount of product shipped, I can do a chart here, so I can see by customers I can see the amount shipped here. And you can go and just, again, directly in the product, I can go and show a pie chart or other advanced charts if I want. I can go into pivot mode as well and do all sorts of cool pivot things. I can pivot on other dimension, for example, on the status of my order, either on the horizontal axis or vertical here. You can see about the status of my order on the top. So really a lot of cool feature in this grid where you can do on-screen BI with your data. So that was the first cool prototype I wanted to share with you. Thank you. So now let's switch to back to the developer persona. Most of you are developers, so I saved the best for the last. So one of the things we're going to release pretty soon in the Visual Studio Code extension is the AL Development Central. So that would be a screen, a tab that will appear when you start up Visual Studio Code if you want. And we will be able to push some feeds and information about AL and about AL development. So, great way for you to get news and about what's happening with AL developments, new features in the compiler, new features in the VS Code, and only for AL. So you might be familiar with a similar page. There's a page like this in Visual Studio, for those of you who know it. So this is basically the equivalent of it, but for AL and AL development. So this is coming very soon. Now, how many of you have been using Seaside in the past? Yeah, lots of hands. So when we moved to Visual Studio Code, we moved some of the functionality that were in Seaside. We had the object designer and some of the designers. So as I'm sure you've noticed, they are not there anymore in Visual Studio Code. And instead, we went for a more text-based approach. So we replaced this with a more advanced IntelliSense and some snippets. Which is basically what Visual Studio Code is about. It's a text editor. But you gave us some feedback, and some of you, I'm sure, are still missing the object designer and some of the designer. So we heard your feedback, and this is something that we're going to release very soon, and this is the AL Explorer, which is what the object designer was to Seaside. It is to Visual Studio Code here. So I can see all my objects here from my extension. And by the way, the grid that is used here is the same grid that I showed you before, same control. So I can also do a lot of cool stuff. I can filter by my own extension here, which I have only a few objects here. I can go and bookmark some objects and filter on the bookmarked objects. Typically that would be the objects you are working with. I can go and filter by type or group by type, so I can see all my code units. I can go and combine this filtering. I can see all my code units for my extension, my pages. And of course, I can navigate. If I double-click on one of the objects, I navigate directly to the code, as you would expect, right? So this is coming very soon in the AL VS Code extension. Now, the next part I'm going to show you now, it's not quite there yet. We're still working on it, but I couldn't resist in showing it to you. You'll see there's a button here called Design. So you won't see that in the first iteration of this release. But if I go and click it on my table, I'm opening a designer here. And let me split this on the right. And then I go and reopen this in the text, so I have the designer and the code side by side. And then I can go and do the things that you would expect and that you missed from Seaside. I can go and add some, edit some property without writing any code, and you'll see, my code get updated right away. I can go and also edit the code here, and you see this full round trip between the designer and the code. Now take a look at the fields here. I might want to change, for example, my picture field to something else. My screen is a little bit cramped here. I can, if I want it to be, say, a media set instead of a blob, you see it's changed here. I can change it back to a blob, and so forth. So this is coming very, very soon. Not in the first iteration. You'll have to be a little bit patient, but we are going to release that, I'm pretty sure, even though it's in the From the Lab session. On the other objects, if I look at a page, there are also some cool functionality where I can go and take a look, for example, at the layout and show it as a as a tree view. So it gives me an overview of my layout. So I hope you. Thank you. So I'm sure you'll be looking forward to the designers. We heard your feedback, and it's coming to you very soon. Now, before I let you go, I enjoy the rest of the conference. I will share the roadmap for Business Central for the upcoming release. The upcoming release is there very, very soon, and these are the themes of this release. We've done a lot of investments in making Business Central a seamless service in terms of operation, in terms of performance. We've invested in onboarding to help your customer get started faster. Great framework there. Horina talked about the Power Platform, and we made a lot of investments there as well, and teams. And of course, the developer tools and productivity is always an area where which has a lot of love from us and from our team. Again, BC Tech, aka.ms/BC Tech. Go and check it out. It's a great resource for samples, for videos, dashboards. There's some PowerShell script there, so go and check it out. You can contribute there as well. We welcome contribution. It's a really great resource place. And if you want to know more about some of the things we talk about this keynote, of course we only had time to scratch the surface, so you only saw the tip of the iceberg, but there are some sessions where you can go deeper in some of the subjects we addressed here. If you want to know more about the Business Central Performance Toolkit, there's a full session about it. Boxy talked about permissions. We also have an entire session for it, a 45-minute session for this. Open source, this is a session to go if you want to learn more how to contribute, troubleshooting, and we have as much as 3 sessions on the Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform. And there's tons of other great sessions. That's just to name a few. There's tons of great sessions. I mean, Luke has put together a fantastic program this year again. Thank you again to be such a great community. Thank you again for being so engaged into Business Central, and enjoy the rest of the conference.